thwart the impending murder, he was able to kill Apsu after he fell asleep. Tiamat became equally horrified that her son would do such a thing to her husband, and immediately disowned all of her children, creating a demonic army, got her consort Kingu to lead them, and sent them against Enki and the other early gods. This is where Marduk, son of Enki, stepped in. In exchange for his might and leadership skills, he insisted that he could lead the holy army against the demonic horde and destroy them. Instead of the younger gods taking turns as the leader and failing every time, they decided to take this new opportunity and elected Marduk as the king. He was able to destroy Kingu, shoot Tiamat with a magical arrow that divided her into two pieces, which would ultimately become the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The remaining parts of her body became the landmasses of the earth. The gods all got together and used Kingu's remains to fashion the first people. Although Marduk did most of the action surrounding the origin of the world and humans, he asked Enki how to do things and for his blessing throughout the entire process. Therefore, Enki is usually considered the creator god. The Atrahasis of Babylon and Acadia. Sometime in the 1600s BCE, another creation story called the Atrahasis was written. While the exact process of creation of the world and people were considered different, it was still Enki who was considered the top god and orchestrator of it all. It all starts with a description of older gods lazing about and doing nothing, while the younger ones have to struggle day in and day out to maintain the world that was created. They cannot rest or take a break. Enki brings up the great idea to create a race of beings subservient to them who could do the work instead. However, they cannot figure out how to make them until one of the gods, named Wilu, decides to sacrifice himself for the formative physical materials. The goddess Ninhursag transforms his body and blood into a type of pottery clay, with which she forms 7 men and 7 women. They procreate readily and fill the land with thousands of people doing the work for the gods and goddesses. At first, this all seems like a very good thing. The younger gods do not have to toil all day anymore. However, so many people are born that they make so much noise and are so active that it disturbs Enlil, the father god, and makes it difficult for him to relax and enjoy his leisure time activities. So he sends a few plagues, including droughts, famines, and pestilence across the land to kill a large number of the people, so they're quieter. Enki takes pity on the people and gives them instructions about how they can stop all these problems and restore balance once more. Enlil notices that his plagues are not having the desired effect at minimizing the number of people on Earth anymore. They just keep multiplying. After much discussion with the higher gods, he sends a massive worldwide flood across the world in order to destroy all life that the younger gods created. Enki tries to stop him, but in the end he's unsuccessful. Therefore he journeys down to Earth and tells a man named Atrahasis, who will become the inspiration for Noah in the Christian Bible, to build a massive ship for his family and many animals. When the great flood comes, he and his family alone are saved. Both the people and the lesser gods are distraught over so much death and destruction. They cry and beg Enlil to stop this horrific idea, but he does not realize the folly of his ways until everyone's dead. The flood retreats to reveal that Atrahasis survived because of Enki's warning. He and the animals emerge from the ship, and he and his family worship the gods and make sacrifices to appease them. Enlil is both impressed at the man's piety and severely angry that Enki defied him by telling one human how to escape his wrath. Eventually, Enlil calms down, and the gods decide to create a new type of being that will not populate the earth as quickly as the ones sacred before. In order to control the population, they create less fertile people, allow demons to carry babies away, make some of the women miscarry, and other women perpetually virgin because they were claimed by the gods. The lifespan of human beings was also minimized, and the risks increased. While Enki seems to be on the side of humanity in these stories, he also does a lot of beneficial things for other gods and goddesses, both in his direct lineage and outside of it. For example, he helps the gods of destruction, Nergal, remain outside the underworld for half of every year. He also arranges for his daughter Inanna's rescue from the netherworld after her death. Throughout various tales and legends, he's usually shown as a very wise and cunning god who can figure out the solutions to a diverse range of problems. He's dedicated to his family, especially Inanna, and frequently helps to restore balance to situations that seem generally out of control. One example of this comes from the poem The Descent of Inanna. Ultimately, she's saved from death and is given various understandings and gifts that she can do so on humanity. Enki makes choices that are seemingly against what the other gods desire, and he's temporarily considered a trickster in these stories. However, it's generally shown by the end that he has a considerably enlightened outlook and takes actions based on the end result. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, he allows Enkidu to get killed, for example. When Inanna tries to seduce Gilgamesh and is rebuffed, Enki protects his daughter's ego by allowing the Bull of Heaven to destroy him. While this does not originally sound like something that Enki would allow for such an epic and heroic figure as Gilgamesh, the end result justifies the means. He recognizes that Gilgamesh will therefore learn about loss in such a way as to affect his understanding of life in general and how to live a good one. Enki is generally considered a sympathetic character in the tales he appears in, even when his actions seem morally challenging. Worship of Enki as the patron of Eridu. Eridu is largely considered the first city on Earth. Enki was therefore adopted as the patron god of the city. It was first created around 5400 BCE and would stand strong as a political, religious, and commerce area for thousands of years. It features heavily in tales and legends stretching from Mesopotamia all the way through the Hebrew creation of the Old Testament and beyond. When archaeologists and researchers reached Eridu many millennia after its founding, they were surprised to find a large number of shrines dedicated to Enki that had been in use for centuries. In fact, some of the earliest ones were constructed and augmented or rebuilt for over 1,000 years. During all this time, Enki had become an exceptionally popular god outside the city as well. Nevertheless, Eridu remained his essential home and hub of worship. He was associated with subterranean fresh water that flowed in this region. The temples of Enki were controlled by an entire network of priests who did a variety of tasks associated with shrine maintenance, worship, acceptance, and the use of sacrifices, healing, and public care when it came to things like food distribution and serving the poor. They did not hold regular ceremonial services, but did organize festivals and special events. The people who lived in the city would have private services or offer prayers to Enki on their own. Enki was so much more than the protector of the city and ruler of the subterranean waters. Because he was one of the high gods that existed since virtually the beginning of time, people found him considerably important in a variety of ways. Therefore, they attributed to him a host of powers that attracted a variety of creatures and beings into his service. These would include giants, mermaids and mermen, demons, and more. Representative as they were of the towering heights of civilization at the time, and sea-deep dark depths of reality, Enki was considered a source of universal wisdom and protection. He was ultimately a very human-focused god who used his power for the benefit of people rather than for his own whims. The